Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. This is Fishman Vlog number 23. And this first clip comes about because of a comment I had gotten when I had posted the videos about the mini diatom filter build. They wanted to see the process I go through for cleaning it. And that kind of reminds me of something I have pretty much gotten away from a little bit now, and I would like to get back into. And that is viewer request items. It doesn't necessarily have to be a build. It could be something like this where I left a detail out and you want to see it explained better or differently. Anything along those lines is great. And also builds too, but when it comes to builds, it's a little bit more difficult because sometimes there's more of a time constraint involved, or in the case of these days, money as well, and being able to get materials and stuff. But I'll also try and include those. They won't be so much here in the Sunday vlogs, but it'll be like Wednesdays and Fridays videos, that sort of stuff. And also, of course, because sometimes I would get quite a few of them, it may be quite some time before I get around to doing those builds as well. So this is how easy this is to clean. I just took the sponge off the end and put an end cap on there, which prevents any flow from going through the filter. I unplug it, and usually at this point it's when that green coating you see on the membrane sloughs off. But this one was a little bit more stubborn. It wasn't until I started taking it out of the tank that it started shedding that. And then, of course, it's very straightforward from this process on. There you go. I'm just going to give it a little shake here just to get the rest of it going. And normally what I would do at this point is I would take it to the sink and clean it there. But I'm not really set up for filming in that area, so I'm just going to do it in a little basin here. And also the other thing I don't normally do is I don't bother taking the pump off, but because the basin's a little bit smaller, I'm going to just take it off here now, just to make room for everything. Not necessary at all, really. It's just easy to clean by popping the top off, rinsing it under the tap, and then putting it back together, and it's done. But this is not really hard to do either, so it's not really much of a extra effort at all. And there you go, it drains out the bottom. And now it's just a simple matter of popping the top off, rinsing the membrane out, and then rinsing any diatom powder that is left in the canister itself. And that's it. Normally I don't put it back together and store it like in one piece. I just don't like all that moisture trapped inside there. It's not really a big issue because, well, none of this is biodegradable. But it's just a better idea because there is obviously leftover mulm and that sort of stuff and algae, and because I'm actually using tank water here, I don't want anything to start growing on it. There you go, that's it. Just stick the parts back together and then just go put it on the shelf and wait for it to get used the other time. So I hope that shows what you're looking for, and like I said, I definitely want to do more of these, so leave comments below if there's anything you want to see. Now, the next couple of clips involved getting a little bit more work done on the lids for the fish room. Now, I had mentioned a few videos ago about trying a different way of doing lids for the 2x2 tanks. I was going to go to more of this style, but I didn't quite get enough time to do that this week. And actually, I'll probably end up just including that in a fish room vlog, because I don't really think there's enough material in there for its own standalone video. But we'll see how that goes. But what I want to do now is I want to finish up at least the 3 tanks in the plant growth experiment. I try and do, if I'm going to do anything to any of those tanks, I try and do them all at the same time, just so there isn't any creeping in variability and stuff. So I am going to finish up those lids, and as I had mentioned in that time, I am going to leave a small gap up front. And that pretty much is just pure laziness. I mean, in this particular case, because there's no additional air stone or water circulation in the tank besides the high humidity planter filter and the underground filter, completely covering the tank probably isn't the best anyway, because it will restrict the amount of airflow across the top. But my main reason is actually just simply because I like to have that gap there, so when I feed in the mornings, or any other time for that matter, it's just easier to go by. I can feed those tanks much more quickly, and with a little gap there, I don't really have to put a handle on the top of the lid. I just flip it up with a finger or whatever when I actually do want to remove it. So it is easier. But again, like I said, I always tend to test things out, and I'm going to see how this works over the next few months. And as you know, again, we'll see how I do the rest of them as time goes on. As you can see, it is nice and clean looking. They are easy to remove. Again, as they do get dirty, they are easy to clean. And that little gap there, that little, well, a little less than an inch gap up front, is not too much of a worry as far as either fish jumping out or humidity, unless of course you have real jumpers like killifish and that sort of thing. But for the most part, the fish stay in, and I get a little bit of extra air exchange there. But again, for me, mostly it's just about being able to go by the front of the tanks, drop the fish food in, and get it done as quickly as possible. And you can see it's really easy just to pop them off and do any additional stuff I need to do. So that's pretty much all I'm going to get to for the lids for a little while, I think. I mean, there is a few more things I want to do about that. But again, I want to try changing how I do the 2x2 ones before I actually get to the point where I'm going to do all of them. So that is for a future video. The next thing I want to talk about today is I want to get back into breeding some more fish. Not so much African cichlids or live bearers, because I'm already doing enough of those. What I want to do is I want to breed some community fish that are reasonably colorful, and also schoolers, because I have a need for them, and my current supply for them is very unreliable at best because of all the stuff that's happening around in the world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a little breeding system for them, and currently what I have in the shop is I have some Serpae tetras and I have some Rumminos. I'm going to try starting with those. And I also have someone locally who can supply me with one or two other varieties. And I'm just going to try it out and see how it works. Because what I used to do is I would, initially, I would set up a tank, put some marbles in the bottom of it, or Java moss, or a combination thereof. And I would pick my breeders, put them in the tank for a few days, and then take them out and wait and see what happens. Now, sometimes when you do that, you end up disturbing the adults sufficiently that they'll end up spawning. So what I want to do instead is I'm going to this tray here, which actually is just one of my underground filter trays. I am going to drill some holes in it here, as you can see. I am going to put some Java moss in the bottom of it, and then use those acrylic rods I showed you to prevent the Java moss from just going everywhere. And then I will, once I have that set up, I will just drop it in the tank where the adults are. And then because I'm only going to do that when I kind of spot some sort of courtship behavior anyway, I'll leave it in there for a time period which I haven't really figured out yet. Probably a few days, maybe a little bit longer. And then I'll pull the tray out and put it in a separate tank, and then wait and see if anything hatches out. I've never tried doing it this way. I know there are people who do breed them this way, and it should be interesting to see if this is something that's going to work for me. So I've just drilled some holes. I mean, obviously I made a much more elaborate setup for that than I needed to, but it gives me a nice straight pattern here. And what I'm going to do now is take, well, Java moss. I have a whole pile of it. I mean, it does grow like a weed after all. And then I'm going to just spread it out, make sure there's not too many big gaps, put the rods in, and then tease the Java moss up over it. I don't think that's really necessary. I mean, the acrylic rods aren't going to cause any issues, and they're pretty much transparent once they're in water anyway. So then I'm going to stick that in with the Serpaes, which I've been noticing have been chasing each other all over the place for quite some time now, and we'll see how that goes. And as far as, you know, what comes of this, this is like something I haven't done before, so I want to give it a try. And then if it works well, I definitely think this is better. I mean, I have in the past tried all sorts of different ways for even like live bears, like with breeding traps and stuff like that. I find, especially like with guppies and platies, I find if you leave the adults in a nice quiet aquarium where there's nothing really in the method of anything that's going to disturb them, you end up with enough babies out of it that you don't really need to go to the trouble of, you know, taking a pregnant female, putting it somewhere else, and really stressing them out when you do stuff like that. So I'm going to try this. This should not disturb the adults at all. I mean, I'm in there filling in tanks regularly anyway, and I've never really ever had any issues with them as far as, getting freaked out. I mean, obviously they'll go to the back of the tank for a few minutes when I'm doing my job or whatever, and then they're back to normal behavior really fast after that. So if you look to the back of the tank, you'll see the school of Serpae tetras back there. And like I said, this should do quite well. And there's enough Java moss in there that it should at least protect some of the eggs. And again, I don't want thousands of these things, so I think this should work fine. But I will let you know in a few weeks and see if I get any babies out of this, because like I said, I've never done it before, and we'll see how it works. So that's pretty much the end of the new stuff. I am going to go through the routine of giving you the updates for these 3 tanks. These are the plant growth substrate tanks, and there's nothing really new to report today. They are doing perfectly fine. I think this is the gravel one, but the last one I'm going to show you, I think the water is a little bit cloudy today, but that's not a big deal at all. It has nothing really to do with anything serious anyway. I am noticing, obviously you can see here, a bunch of new growth, but nothing definitive as far as a difference between any of the 3 tanks. But it is way, way too early. We're only around the month mark now, so it's not really anywhere near time yet to start making any kind of decisions about this sort of thing. And we'll just see how it goes. Well, actually, one little difference here is the water changes now are gradually catching up to the tannins in this tank. And as you can see, it's getting to the point where it's a lot less. And I suspect probably in another month, it'll be pretty much gone. So again, that's pretty much the end of this video. If you like the style, please like and or subscribe. And remember, please, I am very interested in suggestions for future Sunday vlogs as far as small stuff, like things you would like to see that don't require like too much of a build or anything, or too much of a setup to do, like cleaning the diatom filter, that sort of thing. And if you have a larger suggestion, one for like that is a larger build, please keep in mind that my resources are not what they used to be because of, again, the current world situation. Try not to make anything too big, and I will, as time permits and materials, try to start incorporating those builds in as well. So there you go. Those are the 3 tanks, and as you can see, they're all doing fine. This one is a little cloudy today, but again, not really a big deal. And lots of new leaves, especially up here, but I mean, that is to be expected no matter what kind of tank I set up. These guys really do well, these high humidity planter filters. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.